Old Man River and the Running Tide. Life Lessons by RCB.
I've just been reading John Burnside's book, The Music of Time, Poetry in the 20th Century, in which he quotes from several poems. One of the poems quoted is by the English poet Philip Larkin, a poem called Once. It is a poem that explores the place of death in our lives.
Beneath it all, the desire for oblivion runs. Despite the artful tensions of the calendar, the life insurance, the tabled fertility rites, the costly aversion of the eyes from death, beneath it all, the desire for oblivion runs.
During the day, I had collected an advertising leaflet. It read in part,
My name is...
Name given.
And I'm a local arborist currently living in...
The place's name is given.
I'm writing this note to let you know if you're in need of tree services, I'm available to come around to give you a free quote.
A ponder. Why does such a person choose such a trade, such as a business opportunity with such inherent risk, such death-defying feats? I can only conclude that beneath it all, the desire for oblivion runs. There was a time, perhaps 80 or so years ago, when I began craving attention. I craved notoriety. I wanted the status of being at the very centre of the universe. I craved being the foremost of the pebbles on the beach. I have walked the length of the beach at Nice, walked the Promenade des Anglais, the walkway of the English. It runs along the shorefront of the bay. They call it a beach, but there is no sand. It is a beach composed entirely of smooth rocks and pebbles. The beach itself runs for 7 kilometres, and at low tide it is about 100 metres wide. This fabled pebbled Promenade des Anglais consists of not sand, but of pebbles. Millions of pebbles. Perhaps billions. There is no sand to speak of, only pebbles. To me, a beach is sand and water and the occasional jellyfish washed up by the waves. The beach at Sandy Point, the beach of Waratah Bay in southern Gippsland in Victoria, stretches from Walkerville at the western end to Shallow Inlet at the eastern end, and on the other side of Shallow Inlet lies Wilson's Prom. The beach itself is about 100 metres wide, and it is all sand with barely a pebble in sight. Just sand. Sand and water, and more sand. Since my childhood, I have longed to be noticed, longed to be acclaimed. I must have been a most strange little boy, but then most little boys are strange. My mother insisted to me,
You know, you're not the only pebble on the beach.
Methinks the lady doth protest too much. Even at the time, I questioned her assertion, because both she and my father treated me as though I were the only pebble on the beach, as though I were the centre of their universe. I was their only child. These days, I cannot really stand my name. I can't stand to hear my name spoken out loud. I do not like my public reputation. I prefer anonymity. I prefer oblivion. It is so like the ebbing tide. Beneath it all, the desire for oblivion runs. The tradesman whose leaflet I recovered from my letterbox, the arborist, is doing what all business persons do. He is seeking our notice. He is showing off his wares and asserting his availability. He is even willing to come around and give us a free quote. He is craving notoriety. He wants to be noticed, wants to be a person of note. It's plain. He's just like me. Well, the me I've been for maybe 80 years, but it is now too late. I have other fish to fry. Oblivion beckons. Mark Twain once said,
I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and have not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it.
Some people are scared stiff of death and oblivion. I see death as a slight inconvenience, a blip on the radar that indicates that I won't be around anymore. So, beneath it all, the desire for oblivion runs. James Joyce, in the guise of Stephen Dedalus, in the novel A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, writes in his geography book the following account of who he is and of his place in the world.
Stephen Dedalus, Class of Elements, Conglauswood College, Salons, County Kildare, Ireland, Europe, the world, the universe.
That was in his writing, and Stephen Dedalus' friend, Fleming, one night, for a cod, had written on the opposite page,
Stephen Dedalus is my name, Ireland is my nation, Conglaus is my dwelling place, and heaven my expectation.
We all want to know who we are, and we all want to know our place in the world. These days, I'm wary of giving my name. Instead, I choose a pseudonym. John Doe, or Joe Bloggs, or Thomas Sedgwood Massone, off Reynolds Road, in Eltham, almost Research, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, Southern Hemisphere, Earth, the Solar System, the Milky Way, the Universe, Oblivion. We are all members of a religious group known as the Sect of Homo Sapiens, or modern human beings. We are descended from chimpanzees and monkeys and apes, who in turn were descended from other mammals. Ultimately, we are descended from the first creatures who emerged 500 million years ago from the seas and made their home on dry land. Before that, 2,500 billion years before that, our ancestors were amoeba and bacteria, single-celled creatures that somehow became alive in the oceans of the earth. Our ancestors somehow formed in the primeval soup that brought forth the things that we choose to call life. They were minuscule, those creatures, not able to be seen by the naked eye. They could only be seen with the aid of a microscope. And microscopes weren't invented till the 1600s. Perhaps the gods that Homo sapiens willed into existence around 5,000 or 10,000 years ago wondered what it might be like to have other creatures around. And so, like a wide-eyed scientist working in an unhygienic sludge pit, attempted the wildest, most creative, most ambitious and unlikeliest experiment, creating living creatures in a sludge pit, a primeval soup. Thus, they set in train a process, an uncontrolled process that 4 billion years later resulted in an arborist who proclaims his wares, a poet that writes the words, "Beneath it all the desire for oblivion runs," and a scribbler who sets down his ponderings on death and oblivion. A final ponder. Do you recall the Paul Robeson song, Old Man River? The show tune from the 1927 musical Showboat by Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein? In part, it goes,
Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something, but he don't say nothing, 'cause he just keeps rolling, he just keeps rolling along. I get weary, I'm sick of trying, I'm tired of living, and I'm feared of dying, but old man River keeps on rolling along.
as I observed earlier, some people are tired of living but feared of dying. There are also people who look forward to oblivion. To paraphrase Mark Twain, there is nothing to be feared in the idea of oblivion. After all, we were, to all intents and purposes, dead for thousands of billions of years before we were born, and we will be oblivious to the fact that we are thoroughly sick and tired of getting weary and grow sick of trying.
About RCB. RCB is a retired English teacher. Each month, he provides meandering tales based on his lived experience. This article was read by Rebecca Rose,
Sandy Miller,
James Poyner,